In this time of uncertainty, we could all use a laugh every now and then. And in this segment, we like to call In Case You Missed It. We're tapping into some comedy that may have flown under your radar. Jo White is a comedian based in Perth who's just embarked on a new series.
Sunday, she comes up to me, minimal English. Hello, my son. Today I feel brave. I want to go to white people church. I'm like, it's the same church. She's like, no, they have aircon.
Well, if you can't tell already, Jo White isn't his real name. In fact, Tlaahun Heilu's refugee story is one of struggle and survival, but it is one that he relates through his comedy. Tlaahun Heilu, welcome to Weekend Breakfast. It is great having you on the show. You just had your first night of live comedy in a very long time, thanks to the pandemic, of course. What was it like performing in front of a live audience as opposed to performing online, which you've been doing?
Oh, it's a huge difference, obviously. It was like a dream come true again because we've been away from it for so long. So it was good to be back in front of a live audience. I'd rather have bad comedy sessions in front of a live audience instead of in front of my laptop or camera in my room.
Does it feel like you're actually talking to yourself? Because, you know, if you're performing and you're in front of your laptop?
Yeah, of course. You know, it's not like we barely, you don't hear the laughs because usually what it is it's like you tell the jokes, you hear the laughs, and then you go on to the next bit, you let them finish laughing. But in this instance, when we're doing Zoom comedy, we don't hear the laughs. Sometimes we don't even see the people, right? Or we just see the host, he or she's just like sitting there writing, or they're pretty much in the green room of the Zoom show. So they're doing their own thing, and it looks like you're performing to them and they're not enjoying you. So you got to try to work out the patterns in your head to what's like, when do you move on and if you're doing well or not, you know.
It must be very difficult. Now, your comedy taps into your story, the struggles as a refugee when you and your family fled Ethiopia, the conflict in Ethiopia, and then went to Sudan, and you spent this time in a refugee camp, and then you moved and transitioned to Australia as well. How were you able to make, you know, something like a story that's really quite a tragedy? How are you able to make it funny?
It's better than crying, right? That's how I look at it. So comedy is a tool that I use to explore my misfortunes in my life, and I don't know, I just use it to make others laugh, or make myself laugh first, and my family, and then others, you know. But it's, like I said, it's better than crying, and it's the only thing we have, or I have, that's really that no one can take away from me. You know, even if there's no audience, I can still look in the mirror and make myself laugh about my misfortunes, and then get out there with a happy face. So I can't explain what it means to me to be able to do what I'm doing.
And of course, Jo White is not your real name, but at a time, you know, of where the Black Lives Matter movement is really, you know, coming to a peak here. Have you had backlash? Have you had criticism for not using your real name on stage? You know, people perhaps accusing you of not being authentic to your Ethiopian roots?
Look, I have, not to the degree that people think. Like, it's not to the level. There's not a lot of people that go, hey, you're not, you know, Jo White, you're Tlaahun, and it's pronounced with the Tlaahun. Most people that can get it right with the is beatboxers, I always say. So if you can beatbox, you can say that. And I love both names. I love Jo White, I love Tlaahun Heilu. So whichever one you want to call me, I'm happy for you to call me. The reason why I went with Jo White is because in school I was Joe Black. My nickname was Joe. You know, when I was 14, my nickname was Joe in school. I was like one of the only Africans, or the only African in my year, and the second African in the whole school, and the other one was my twin sister. And so, you know, it was a rough school. I didn't want to get bullied. And so when they said, what's your name? I was like, Joe. And then it was like, okay, well, that's Joe then. And then it's like, oh, that black guy, Joe Black. Yeah, you guys know Joe Black. And it was like, oh yeah, that's Joe Black. And then they'd call home and they'd be like, oh, is Joe Black home? And my mum would be like, who's Joe Black? And she'd wake up, And so when I left school, that just I carried it with me. So when I go to employments and stuff, it will just be Joe, the nickname, Joe Hailu. And when I started doing comedy, it's like I want it to be funny straight away. That's all I care about. It's just being funny. And if you can be funny without opening your mouth, that's like a talent in itself. So when they introduced me as Joe White, I was just be like, surprise! And it used to just get laughs, So it was all done in the name of fun. And now as my brand grew and more people were getting to know of me, and obviously you will meet people who won't agree with something you say or something you're doing, and it's up to you at the end of the day if you want to take it on board and make the changes, or if you're happy with it and you want to continue. But ultimately, I always say people have every right to behave or to react in whatever manner they want to with my jokes or with Joe White. I'm always open to listening and taking constructive feedback, not trolling though.
We've just heard from these press conferences about COVID-19, and we constantly talk about coronavirus at a time of uncertainty, at a time of, where people are scared about this virus. People have lost jobs. People don't know what's going to happen with their families. Where do you think comedy sets in all of this? And do you have to be extra sensitive when you're writing your jokes and performing them?
Always. Look, since not just before Corona as well, like every time, the reason I know why I do comedy, and the reason why I do comedy is because I want to have a positive impact on just humanity in general, or on my crowds to begin with, and so on with my YouTube videos and everyone that it reaches. So when I write, I don't swear. It's clean comedy, and I always make sure that I don't say anything to the crowd that I'm not comfortable saying in front of my mum, right? So it's done in a way where it tries to cater for everyone. Considering, my comedy is about my life at the moment, obviously coronavirus is everywhere. So I talk about, being in isolation. I talk about just the whole saga of going from Melbourne to Perth. And then I share stories from when we first migrated here, and the challenges we faced, like when we went to Centrelink and my mum, was about to be given $600 every fortnight because she's got 6 kids, and she thought she was selling us. She's like, no, the children are not for sale, So I talk about that, and in a manner where I take you for a walk into my life. So what it's like for, a Caucasian audience, mainly 99% of my audience is Caucasian. So I take you for a walk in what it's like to be part of an Ethiopian family and watching this single mom of 6 kids transition into the Australian way of life. So it's about my life. So there's a lot of stuff on COVID, and using comedy again to see the funny side of the impact.
Well, it is a fascinating journey that you take us on. Tlahun Hailu, it is great talking to you. I wish we could talk forever. And I hope to be able to catch your comedy at some point when the borders come down, or if you come to Sydney or Melbourne. We know that you're only performing in Perth at the moment because of COVID-19, but best of luck with all the show. Thank you so much, Tlahun Hailu.
Thank you, Fazia.